Namaskar. Good evening, everyone. Good afternoon, I think, if you are joining us, or good evening if you are coming from Europe or from Asia. So tonight we have this interesting topic. It is a live stream in YouTube and Facebook, and it is about how to remove negative energy and purify our home, or how to spiritually cleanse the home. So of course it is a question answer session for around 15 minutes or to 20 minutes. I will share some point and about this topic, and then you can ask all the different questions in regards to this topic, or the solution or the problem you may face regarding your home or the vibration at home. So first I would like to introduce myself. My name is Cyriaque. I come from France and I'm doing spiritual practice for the past 20 years, and I live in India for 10 years in an ashram where I was doing spiritual practice, and now for the past almost 1 year and I'm traveling, and I'm currently in Europe, but of course due to the situation now we are not traveling, but we will resume soon. In the next week we'll start traveling again. So I would like to introduce also SSRF, means the Spiritual Science Research Foundation. That has been it's a spiritual organization, non-profit organization that is registered in USA, Australia and Europe, and it has two main objectives: is to explain about the spiritual dimension and how it affects our lives, and the second objective is to guide the seeker in their spiritual practice, in their spiritual journey, all the way to God realization. And we have a website I encourage you to read, with a lot of knowledge. In English we have around 750 articles on different topics pertaining to spiritual phenomena, spiritual practice. And a lot of research also is being done, and that is conducted in the research center in Goa, India, on behalf also with the Maharishi University of Spirituality. And His Holiness Dr. Vallee is a source of inspiration of the Spiritual Science Research Foundation and the founder of the university. It is a saint from higher order from India. So what we will do before we start all our lecture or live stream, we'll do for 2 minutes, we close our eyes for 2 minutes and we'll meditate or focus on chanting or breathing, just to calm the mind, to achieve some concentration, and then we will start. So I will ask you to just close your eyes, and then we will do that for 2 minutes, and then we will start. we can start the session. Just to, if some of you just join us, it is a live stream session. It's a Q&A, mean question and answer sessions. But first I will share for 10-15 minutes, about 15 to 20 minutes about some topics. It is about removing negative energy and how to spiritually cleanse like your home. So of course it is a question answer, so while I'm explaining the point, you can also, if any question at that time or something is not clear, you can always write on the chat. So about, I don't know if you know that approximately we spend around 70% of our time in our home. This is in average, we can say worldwide, but probably now for the past 2 months, because of these situations of the lockdown, I think people must have spent 90 to 99% for the past 2 months. So sometimes when we look for a place, we want the place to look nice. So we are thinking that it should be green, or if it's possible, there is light, whether it should look pleasant. So we look of different criteria to feel that, so we feel good at home. But sometimes also the place may look like very nice, like very appealing, but sometimes we may not feel good in it. So is there some reason, or whether some spiritual reason behind it, the vibrations? Because what is very important, we'll see in this lecture today about what we call Vastu Shastra, or we call it also Feng Shui. Vastu Shastra is a science of the Burmese. It's an ancient knowledge, and it's about the energy of the home. So I will share, of course, now about the different aspects, and then later on in this question answer, you can share also if some of you are experiencing at home some vibrations or some problems regarding to your home. So we'll try also to answer your question and solutions. That is, in a way, what is more important. Knowledge is one aspect, but the solution or practical solution is the most important aspect. So just about the influence, what influence the energy or the vibration from our home. But you may be surprised, but as per spiritual science, or we can say Vastu Shastra, 50% is in regards to the person, whether the person is having a good personality or a bad personality. Ultimately, what we mean by the person living in the place. So that has 50% importance. And 30% importance is about we can say, the permits, how they use it, how the place is used. So I will explain, of course, but also 20% is less importance, is, let's say, where the plot is, whether it is close to we can say a crematorium, a cemetery, or close to natures, whether the directions, the materials of the structures, so like that. But that has only 20% importance. I shared before about the resident, the person living in the place, is 50% importance. So when we say person having some unpleasant like personality or bad habits, so let's say unpleasant, maybe we can say the person is having defects such as anger, envy, jealousy, or bad habits, consuming alcohol, so that greeds, addiction, so that actually will attract negative vibrations. It emit negative vibration and attract negative vibration, negative energy. And as compared to the place used, let's say there is some place where some people, let's say, drink alcohol, or some people use it for party, or some place where loud music is used. So similarly, at that time, the negative vibration will be much more. So automatically, negative energy from this subtle dimension, or we can say ghosts also, will be attracted to such place. Also, something you may not know is whatever we use at home, whatever we use, let's say, for decoration, to decorate our home. Some people, there were a trend, people used to put curtain in black or use black colors. Some people putting many type of items, object, sculpture, or we can say paintings. But just to understand, say, even everything emanate vibrations. So if there is many types of object or painting, and if sometimes the object themselves or the paintings themselves are not positive, and it will emanate negative vibrations. Or some people also, they store meat in a fridge or alcohol in cellar. So that also can attract negative vibrations. That also depending on, some people have shelves full of books. But actually depending on the type of books or the author, if it is negative, then it may attract also negative vibration. So that you can see, as per everything emanate vibrations in the universe. Every objects, items emanate positive or negative vibrations. So if at home we keep unnecessary things or different items that may be negative, then it will attract, of course, negative vibration. But you may say, see, just one object here, one object. But when you cumulate all the aspect, so meat in the fridge, alcohol in the cellar, one painting in the room, one object here, so it is accumulation, and it keeps on growing. And this is another also important aspect, is departed ancestors were attached to their home. So what happened, departed ancestors sometimes are attached to earth, and they also roam around. And sometimes if they are attached to their home, they are attached to their object or to family members. So ultimately they can affect the descendant, or sometimes they may affect the resident of their ancestral home. There is some very interesting finding, and I encourage you to read on the website. We have some very interesting article about soil and water sample that we have done, and so far almost 1,000 sample has been done of soil and water for more than 30 countries. And in those countries, they come from affluent, or we can say developed countries, somewhere like USA, Switzerland, so, and from all over the world, and from India also. And what is alarming result that we had, but before that, is we use instrument to measure the samples. It's called UTS scanner, and it has the ability to measure the positive and negative vibrations. And how it is done, the sample is brought to the research centers, and within 24 hours it is immediately measures, so that the items, or we can say the water or earth, is not changed with the surrounding. Because even what was very interesting finding also is, depending where you keep the water or the soil, it was maybe negative, and when it comes to the research centers, at that time, within 2 weeks, the positivity or the water became positive. But I will come back to this point I share, because also what we saw is 85% of the samples outside India were negative, and is this 15% was actually the home where the seeker stay. That means the seeker is doing spiritual practice. So, and just to go back to what I say, they brought a sample from a place from Germany, I think, and that it was having negative aura. It was water, it was having negative aura, and it was kept in the research center, in the ashram. And after 2 weeks, when it was measured again, it has positivity. So everything responds, whether it is water, earth, everything emanate positive. And just this important part is we say that 50% importance of the vibration in the home is due to the person living in the place. So if the person is not doing any type of spiritual practice and is having personality defect and have, we can say, anger, and we can say all the problem of quarrel is due to personality defect such as anger, jealousy, envy, and that create negative vibrations. So that's why we hear the importance is spiritual practice, because one aspect is how to purify our mind. So one is chanting God's name. It is, we can say, the foundation of spiritual practice. And we will see, of course, in the question answer which chant we should chant, which is the best chant to do. And what I share also about this aspect of how to reduce defect of personality, because this is one of the main aspects of quarrel at home, is due to such defect, as I share, like anger, jealousy, envy. And His Holiness Dr. Cyriaque Vallee, that is the founder or the source of inspiration of SSRF, developed this personality defect removal process by addressing an incorrect habit or incorrect, we can say, negative impressions that we have, and then changing with the positive autosuggestions, and then slowly the person is able to respond in a positive way to situations. And I think many who are practicing spirituality or who have implemented this aspect of overcoming defect of personality have experienced how they have become more calm, less reactions. So automatically the interaction with others has become better, and that of course have changed the interaction in the home with the family members. So if you have questions, don't hesitate to already formulate the different questions you may have in the chat. So when we come to spiritual techniques, we will go in more detail in the question answer with you, with the different type of techniques that we can do to purify the home. But one technique is to always start whatever different remedy you may do, whether it is using incense stick, whether it is using dupe, or we can say frankincense or camphor. It is to start at the entrance door of the entrance and go in a clockwise motion. So to start from the door entrance and go in clockwise, and whatever you should do is, whether it is incense, frankincense of dupe, or camphor, or holy water also, or using also gomutra, that is urine from Indian cow, to sprinkle, to do more in corners. Why? Because in corners this is where you have more negative energy or negative vibration, because there is a frictions of two walls. So this is usually where more negative vibration may be. So just some do and don't, some tips that you can keep in mind. Try to keep things tidy, and also not to avoid like clutter, too many items or too many things in the home, because as I shared earlier, everything emanates different type of vibrations, and many times what we do, we keep unnecessary things for decorations, but that decoration may not help us in the calmness or the positive vibrations. Try to keep the door of the bathroom closed. Why? Because in the home or an apartment, where you have the most impure vibration are from the bathroom. And try to keep also the lid of the toilet closed, because similarly this is where negative vibration can come. Also something, avoid keeping mirror in the bedroom where you sleep, or in the room or place where you stay most of the time. And important is to maintain cleanliness, because if something is dirty, it will create some foul smell, and foul smell can attract negative energy. And also avoid, we can say, all these artificial air freshener because they are used with chemicals. So better to use fresh, we can say, flowers if we can. Of course, there is many do and don't that we can do. Of course, I encourage you to read on the website, but what we can take now, it is better we take your questions and different question, or something that I say that was not clear to you, or in case you have some things at home. So we can take your questions now. There is a question from Gabi Rosset. Good evening, Gabi. What about people who live near you engaging in loud music or parties? Is there something you can do to clean this? That is actually a good point, because there are many people who stay sometimes in some place where you are doing everything fine, but the neighbors are indulging themselves in incorrect practice. So there are two options. See, ultimately, either we have that possibility to go to a better place, but that of course sometimes may not be always possible. We can also know our neighbors, but if we are in the place where it is less crowded, less people, and we can move to a better place, then we can do that. Otherwise, if we cannot do anything, the best is to do more spiritual practice. Why? Because when we do spiritual practice, remember, it's 50% importance. It creates a protective shield around the house. So if the spiritual practice is high or strong, then there will be less effect from neighborhood. There is another question from Ajay Kumar. How to get out of bad habits? See, bad habits is in a way impressions that we have in our subconscious mind that we have keep on repeating, either from this birth or from previous birth. So that's why we spiritual practice is one way, but in that chanting, we can say, some people does meditation, but when they have anger they cannot meditate. So chanting is one aspect, that because it helps to calm the mind to some extent, but the best way is to work on overcoming those bad habits. We can say through techniques of autosuggestions. So we have bad habit due to different aspects. One, it can be because of, let's say, anger, envy, jealousy. So that overcoming defect of personality is the best way. But sometimes bad habits can be called to, let's say, due to negative energy influencing us. It can be addictions. So at that time, spiritual healing remedy, or repeating Shri Gurudev Datta. Shri Gurudev Datta is a name that helps to protect against, we can say, departed ancestors or ancestral problem. So that is the best things we can do. See, for me, what happened when I started, I used to smoke almost 1 pack of cigarette per day when I was around 25-26 years old. And sometimes I would smoke even 2 packs a day when I would go out. And they told me that actually I'm born from Catholic background. And when I came in contact with SSRF, they told me that actually I have ancestral problem. But by intellect I could not understand, because it is foreign to me. But what happened is I started to feel the need to repeat Shri Gurudev Datta. And when I repeated Shri Gurudev Datta for almost 2 days and 2 nights, after 3 days I stopped smoking. Because in my case it was caused due to ancestral problem. Of course later on I continued chanting Shri Gurudev Datta. I started to work on overcoming anger, different defect within me. But that part of bad habits, either it is our defect within us, or sometimes it can be because of ancestral problem or negative energy, or it is also aggravated. Negative energy or ancestor will also aggravate our we can say bad habits such as anger or addictions. So that's why we recommend to do overcoming defect of personality and do healing remedy, especially Shri Gurudev Datta. We can repeat around 3 hours, 2 to 3 hours Shri Gurudev Datta per day. You can download on the website the audio and listen to the audio. There is another question from Subodh Nayar. Do departed picture of person, both ancestor and person, such as a landlord picture, have an effect in the room? Of course, that also can have influence. Usually we recommend that it is better to two things. If the person is not attached to the departed picture or landlord, we can say more departed picture, it is better to either remove the pictures. So it can be two things. Either you can immerse the photo in the water, or if the person are attached to their descendant, that in case they can cover it, either they can remove, instead of immersing in water, they can keep it in a box, in a cellar. Those who cannot, they are too much attached to their descendant, either you can cover it or you can keep it. But just to understand that because of the photo, if the person is earthbound, the ancestor is earthbound, the photo pulls them down. It attaches them. That's why there is a science not to give the name of the person, of a building or a street, to keep the photo in the home, because it attracts them, it bounds them. So if you can remove the photo, the better. But that remains your choice depending on your attachment. There is another question from Sushmita Barnerier. Sorry, I'm maybe not pronouncing too well. How do we protect ourselves from other people's bad vibration at work or home? So same thing, say at home or at work, we are surrounded by others. At work it is our colleague, at home maybe our family members. So just same thing, when we do spiritual practice and we chant internally, it creates a protective shield around us. And if we overcome defect within us, such as expectation, judgment, comparison, then our reactions in the mind will become less. Our mind will become more stable. We'll be able to chant more. So inside we are feeling more happy, more stable. See, sometimes we can't change, no? We can't change others at work. We cannot change others at home, but we can change ourselves. There is a question from Radha Sylvia. Chanting must be done silently or little louder to get positive energy. Okay, that is a good question. Actually, it comes to the in regards to chanting, repeating God's name. There are few levels. One what we call Varkari is to repeat aloud. So sometimes we are not able to concentrate, or it is more easy when we chant aloud. So we say loudly. But the best is to go more subtle. See, there is one principle in spirituality. We have to go from gross to subtle. So we should go from saying loudly to do in mind. That is what I shared before. Aloud is Varkari and in mind is Madhyama, in mind. So that a mind has more power. Why it is more subtle? So if you are able to chant in mind, it is better. Why? Because it has more energy. But sometimes if there is too much thoughts in the mind, then you can do aloud. Remember, God is subtlest. So subtle is more powerful than gross. There is a question from Nicola. Will prayer to God purify the premises and fill it with sattvic frequency? See, when it comes to prayers, I will explain about prayers. It depends again of the spiritual capacity or spiritual level of the person. If the person, for a prayer to be effective, the spiritual level of the person should be high. So let's say if the home now is affected by, let's say example, the home is affected by negative energy, and then we pray, and our spiritual level is not enough. At that time it will have no effect at all. It will not help of any types. So that's why chanting is more effective. Why? Because when we chant, it is God's name. So that principle in spirituality, name, form and energy coexist. So when we repeat a name, we attract that form, we attract that energy. So it is that positivity from God that we attract. And that positivity has the ability to purify the environment, not us, but that chant, that name, that energy. So just to go back to prayer, prayer have less effect unless our spiritual level is high. But when spiritual level is high, the person is not interested in praying because he is more engrossed in doing spiritual practice. It helps us now when we pray, we feel nice. It gives us some psychological satisfactions. But at spiritual level, what we mean is spiritual vibration or effect. Sometimes the prayer will have no impact. There is a question from Amrut Javanjal. I use a salt and haldi powder to clean the floor at home. What else we should add to remove negative energy? That is a good point. So what you can do, I don't know if you are in India, or in case there is what we call gomutra. It is urine from Indian cow, because cow from India have that ability to attract positive vibrations, and the urines of the cow, we call gomutra, is very positive. So you can sometimes pour few drops in the water and then you can mop the floor. What you can do if you have camphor also, so you can sometimes keep a small piece of camphor in corner of the house. What you can do also, you can use, we can say, incense or frankincense dupe, and then you can go from clockwise, in clockwise motion from the entrance in the house, and go in clockwise directions. So there are different things that we can do to purify the place. Something you can do also to purify the house is to keep, we can say that chant Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya or Shri Gurudev Datta. So what we recommend is we can play either one or both as at different time, because the name has that ability to purify the environment. So if at home there is more ancestor problem, at that time we can play in a low tone Shri Gurudev Datta. Or sometimes we experience sometimes more negative vibration. So we may not be able to understand whether at home it is due to negative energy or it is more due to ancestor problem. That's why we recommend you can play Alpha Hour Datta, Alpha Hour Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. You can download the audio, both audio are free on the website. So you can download and put it in low tone in the house, because sound have ability to purify the atmospheres. Especially at night, we recommend to keep the chant. So you can see what is more practical, whether you want to keep both or you want to keep one, and see, you can see which one is helping the most. There is another question from Alexander. When I live in an apartment, can my neighbor influence the positivity in my room through walls? Can I use box to clean the premises? See, neighbors, whether again what we shared before, no, our neighbors or who is around us can impact us positively or negatively. If they are doing spiritual practice, it will have a positive effect. If they are negative, they will have a negative. It can go through wall. Vibration can go through walls only. They can go through anything. They are subtle vibrations. So we can use box. Yes, we can use box to put around the house. Especially we recommend to keep box around the bed. Why? Because when we sleep at that time, during night, negative energy is at its peak, we can say. At that time, if we keep boxes around us, it can protect us. For some of you maybe not be knowing, you can read on the website, there is a healing remedy with the element of Akash, that means ether. So this is not the box, it is a void. It has ability to pull and attract the negative vibrations. So you can read, we will paste the article on the website, and then you can read the article about boxes and how to place boxes around bed, house or self. There is another question from Christina Karzen. What is your meaning about using Soj, salve, to clean a home? See, it depends. There are different, usually we don't recommend to clean the home with sages, because it depends again about whether this plant actually is used in different rituals, but we don't recommend using sage. Better to use, we can say, frankincense or dupe, or we can say incense were natural. There is a question from Nicola. I play devotional song of His Holiness Bhaktaraj Maharaj for spiritual healing. That is also okay to play devotional song. It is a saint from higher order from India, but we also recommend, it is important to play the Shri Gurudev Datta or also the Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, because see, sometimes in the home there is ancestor problem. That time it is better to play the name of Shri Gurudev Datta. About Yasmina, does the removal of image also apply to deceased pet? That about animals, it has less effect, but again that may not help you. Why? Because ultimately it increases our attachment or our emotional attachment, and when we are emotional attached, that create vibrations, we are not positive, and then negative energy can utilize or use those emotional state or our attachment. So ultimately, if we want to progress spiritually, we should free ourselves from attachment or from emotions. So keeping photo of a deceased pet will not help us. Ultimately, it may not bound the animal, but it will bound us. About another question from Sonal. At the Sai Baba temple near me, there are original hand-painted photography of Sai left for donation by someone. I'm not sure whether I should bring it at home or not, since I don't have his photo. It is not clear to me, Sonal, the question whether it is a photo of Sai Baba or it is just a hand that was painted by a devotee. See, if it is a photo of Sai Baba, he was a saint. But if it is paint, see who has painted. We have a very interesting presentations about art and what influence art or the paintings. There are two main aspects. One is the painter who paints, whether the painter is positive or negative, and the subject that is represented, whether it is a positive person or not. So even if sometimes the subject is positive but the painter is not positive, it may have negative vibrations. So that's why a photo or a painting may not be the same. There is a question from Amit Gulati. I am not able to take decision it can be because of negative energy. See, it depends. It can be two things. It can be either due to our mind. Let's say I have unnecessary thinking, or I have a defect of indecisiveness. So that can be from ourself only. Or it can be sometimes due to ancestral problem. The person is not having clarity of thoughts, and due to that not able to take decisions, or because there is what we say black covering. What negative energy does, or ancestor problem, they put a black covering around the person. Black covering is in a way negative vibrations that in a way reduce the capacity of the person, let's say of the mind or the intellect. At that time the person is not able to think clearly. So what can happen also, we have maybe unnecessary thought and indecisiveness, and then negative energy aggravated. So what we recommend, if you can try to do salt water remedy. That is one aspect. Salt water remedy, because salt water remedy pull out the black covering around us or in us. And do the chanting Shri Gurudev Datta. And at the same time, if you want to try this, to work on overcoming whether any defect of process such as undecisiveness, too many thinking. So that may help also. So we should work on all front. Just to explain one thing, problems are three types. Problems are physical, psychological, or spiritual. Problems who are just physical in nature or just psychological in nature are just 20%. With a combination, that means problem is due to physical factor and spiritual factor, or psychological and spiritual factor, all three of them. That is 30%. And 50% is purely spiritual in nature. So almost 80% of different problems we face have a spiritual root cause. That's why it is better to address at all levels. But if we address at only one level, physical or psychological level, and it doesn't go away, then the chance to be spiritual is more. But we should still address psychological factor, overcoming defect of personality, and spiritual factor, doing healing remedy, chanting. There is another question from Yogamaya Dasi. My apartment flat is painted black on the outside. Do I need to do a certain upai, or will just doing spiritual practice inside the premise be enough? So if you are the owner, then you paint it white only if you can. If you are not the owner, then you can suggest to the landlord to paint it in white. That will be good also. But otherwise, if both you can't do anything, then focus on your spiritual practice. Chanting, spiritually healing remedy, overcoming defect of personality. Because the main positivity is within us only. And just to explain an example, there is this UTS scanner. Now we explain about the soil and water sample. So in India, they have done UTS scanner on some saints, and the aura of their positive energy will go to 400-500 meters. Or seekers who are doing spiritual practice, they had positive aura of 20, 30, 40 meters. So whether we are at home and we do good spiritual practice, then that positivity will protect, no? And it will also purify the atmospheres. There is another question from Sarika Nikam. Somebody left my door tulsi plant. No, somebody left my door tulsi plant. When I could not stop devotion about tulsi plant. So I kept that plant my balcony. Sorry, that question is not clear, Sarika. If you can try to rephrase it. There is another question from Sue Ryder. Is it possible to sense the vibration of an entity in the home? How do we know what they want if the entity is just there standing? What if they need help? Are they all negative entities? So it is possible to sense, we can sense sometimes some vibrations. We may sense some presence. Most of the time, 99% of presence are negative. Usually see, positive vibration usually doesn't come, or they don't manifest. It is very rare. Or they don't come in a home. That is also very rare. Usually 99% is more negative vibration, negative entity. It can be ancestor or it can be ghost also. So when we sense it, immediately we should pray and chant for protections. We should not try to help them. We can't help. Ultimately, the best things we can do is by chanting Shri Guru Dev Datta or chanting a name that will maybe help them to some extent. But because mainly what they want, if they are stuck in a home, if they want to fulfill some addictions, or they want to fulfill some unfulfilled desires, that can happen. Sometimes ghost or entity or ancestors or negative energy, they don't have body, no? So they want to fulfill some desires. So they use a human body with a life. So they use their descendant or they use the person who lives in the house to fulfill their desires. So that's why it is best. Best is to protect ourselves, to chant. If it is ancestor and we chant Shri Guru Dev Datta, it will protect us and give some protection. We can't help them. Ultimately, to be able to help somebody in the spiritual dimension, the person has to be a saint at a very high level. Before that is not possible. Why? Because we don't have that energy within us. So remember, moment you sense some entity, you should pray and chant. Some people want to understand who it is, communicate with them. It's very dangerous. There is another question from Gayatri Nathan. I heard negative sounds sometimes. Is there some specific remedy for this? I cleanse with incense stick around the house once every day and light incense stick in the center of the room. See, when we hear negative sound, see, the best is to play the sound, either Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So play it in low tone, or we can say Shri Guru Dev Datta, because sound has ability. See, here is a sound, so sound, and then we give positive sound. It is at the same level, no? It is at the level of air, of Akash, of ether element. And if you put incense in corners, not only in center of the room, in corners, this is where negative energy are. We can also sprinkle holy water in corners. If you have Gomutra, urine from Indian cow, you can also sprinkle around the house in clockwise motion. You can take camphor, bismini camphor, and put small piece of camphor around the house, or use dupe also to purify the house. So sound is the best, but see, we should use everything, no? Let's say we are sick, we are deficient in vitamin A, B, C, D. When we are unwell, no? So usually what we do when we got sick, we take multivitamin, or we take different type of medicines to get better. So see, if we are affected, now there is negative energy in a place, we should use different remedy, because all those remedy, when they combine each other, it is more protections, and they fight at different element. for, let's say, sound, let's say chanting of the sound. It is at the level of hair and ether principle. Boxes, it's at the level of ether principle. At the level of incense, it's at the level of earth and fire. So like that, it goes at different element. So when we use the 5 cosmic element, it has more positivity. There is another question from Tara Byron. Can we fast from food to remove ancestral spirit? So about fasting, again, about being affected by ancestor spirit, it will depend again of 2 aspects. It will depend on whether the ancestor, where this ancestor is, means the spiritual capacity of the ancestors. Because if the ancestor is above 50%, they are liberated. They are not in a way bound earth. They go to positive plane of existence. But if they are, let's say, okay ancestors, 30-40%, but good, to overcome them may be possible, not with fasting, but may be possible. But if they are negative, we can say lower spiritual level, and have addictions, they have revenge, because they can affect us because of destiny, because of revenge, or because of fulfilling cravings or addictions. At that time, it is very, very difficult to overcome them. And fasting, it is at the level of body only. Until unless the person does spiritual practice of Hatha Yoga of highest level, then they are able to do real fasting. But their mind are purified. They are at higher level. Otherwise, that's why we should not try to overcome ancestral problem with fasting. Ultimately, it is better to do Shri Gurudev Datta. Remember again that name, form and energy coexist. So Shri Gurudev Datta name has that potency to protect from ancestral problem. And also fasting cannot make us grow. It is very difficult to grow spiritually until and unless the person has a very high spiritual level where they do what we call penance. But they used to do penance for 100 years, no? Thousands of years. And today's time to do such type of practice is almost impossible. There is a question from Alexander. Is it enough to purify our own seeker room or necessary to clean the whole house? It depends how big is your home. If it is a small home, then it's good to purify all the home. But the best if where we are, no? Where you are, where you sit for meditation or chanting, where you sleep. At that time, it is good to purify the room. But if we can purify the entire apartment, is good also. So first we make our room positive, then we make the living room positive, then we make the entire house positive. But again, that will depend on our own spiritual practice. But using healing remedy, better to purify the home or the room, means the room where you are. Let's say if you live with some others, member of your family who don't do spiritual practice or oppose you for spiritual practice, or those who live with somebody else who are not so much interested in spiritual practice. At that time, then focus on purifying your room only, because if you start purifying others' room and the person indulge in wrong things or bad habits, it will be nullified. So better you focus on your room. There is a nice question from Kate Kerin. What does it mean to make your home like an ashram? What are the most important steps to take? See what we mean by making a home like an ashram. What an ashram means? An ashram means a place conducive for spiritual practice, where only spirituality is about. So how to make our home an ashram? is to work on ourselves first, no? Overcoming defect of personality. We can skip the spiritual emotion also. That home is the home of God. It is where it is not my home, but it is the home of God. I will just share an experience. There is one seeker, she is a saint now. Her name is Puja Shilpa Kudarkar. She became a saint 2 years ago. And more than 20 years ago, she went to USA. And she got married and live in USA. And she tried to see how she can keep the home as an ashram. And so she was doing a lot of spiritual practice. And her husband is a good seeker, but at that time he was not so much interested in spiritual practice. But she was making a lot of effort in different aspects, working on herself, overcoming defect of personality, developing spiritual emotions, chanting all the time. And then one of the friends came to the home and said, "Oh, okay, when guests come, you drink a glass of alcohol." So the husband told the friend, "Okay, you have glass of alcohol, now if you want, you can help yourself." And then the friend was just waiting, and then after 15 minutes he said to the husband he said, "Actually, I don't know why, but I don't feel to drink in your house." Actually, what is experience is because there is positivity due to her spiritual practice. That home has become like an ashram. There is positivity. And at that time, the person coming could feel the vibration and didn't feel the need to drink. Even today, there is an ashram there. It is in USA. So it is a very nice question. Ultimately, ashram, keeping the ashram in our house, we should keep ashram within us. It is where God, because God is within us, no? So we should keep our mind and our heart like an ashram. Then automatically, but we should do it with action level, no? We should not say just by mind, I want my home to be like ashram. We have to do at action level. Make it clean, thinking that it is God's home, praying gratitude, chanting all the time, overcoming defect of personality. It's very nice question you are asking. Imagine when all home will be like that positive, then the world will be positive only. We will go back to Satya Yuga. Satya Yuga used to be an ancient time, million years ago, where there were positivity everywhere. Everybody was spiritual. Now today's time is opposite. Everybody indulging themselves in incorrect practice. They are just interested in money only, making money. That's why when we did the soil and water sample, 85% of readings outside the world is negative only. So that's why if we do spiritual practice, our home will become positive, our whole will become positive. So instead of trying to make the home positive, try to make your home positive. To purify the mind. There is question from Ashosh Devan. I have learned Hatha Yoga and Kriya. Does it also help from negative energy? See again what I share in Hatha Yoga or Kriya Yoga. It depends on the intensity of spiritual practice you are doing. If it is done as a hobby, 1 to 3 hours per day, that is not spiritual practice. If it is done continuously 10 hours per day, intensely, it becomes spiritual practice. But again, Hatha Yoga is related to body, pranayam, body. Ultimately, we have to purify our mind. To be able to achieve highest level in Hatha Yoga, our mind should be purified. We say no, the pollution, it is not car, factory, aeroplane. The biggest pollution is our mind. And mind sends the biggest wave of negative vibration. It's the highest Wi-Fi in our mind. It's like 10G. Now we are saying 5G, no? The mind is equal to 10G only. So that's why if our mind become positive, then negativity cannot influence. But if we have defect of, say, pride or ego, or we can say anger, then it will have negative vibrations. So whatever practice we try to do, it will be nullified because negative energy are attracted, and then it is difficult to do spiritual practice. See, whether it is Hatha Yoga, whether it is Karma Yoga, whether it is Bhakti Yoga, whatever path we want to follow, ultimately we should purify our mind first. That's why in any path we want to follow, there is many paths. But if personality defect is done, then any path we can follow, any path will be successful. Because many try to do meditation, and sometimes they get discouraged, no? After 6 months. Why? Because it's difficult. There is another question from Sola. My house design is such that northwest corner is extended. Then I don't understand how to apply Nam strip. It is not a perfect square or rectangle in nature. It is almost like a L shape. Okay, actually that is a good point where we recommend in to sleep. We have mentioned last week, it was about sleeping disorders, to sleep in east-west. So sometimes I think we can send you, Sola, if we can send the survey. There is a survey where you can say how you felt from the session, and if you can have your email, we can answer your questions about it, how to apply the Nam strip properly. It's a bit difficult if it is have a L shape. So if you can, we will answer your questions. Also, some of you, if you were not, because we already crossed time, I did not realize that we already went over time. There were so many good questions. If you want your questions to be answered, what you can do, you can keep your contact. We will send you a small survey now to say how you find the session, and if any topic you want to tell us, we can take. And then if you leave your email ID and you have questions, write also your questions, so that we can answer your question back. So I hope you learned something from this session today. And we have this weekend a workshop. So we will put the link also for you to see. It's a very interesting workshops. It is a practical workshops with a bit of theory to explain about how to manage your time. And because if we want to do spiritual practice or to increase our spiritual practice, how to manage our time, because there is time goes very fast, no? But sometimes until we are aware of time, we do also some practical exercise to understand where our time go. And we will do some session about that. And also we have a very nice research showing how social media can have an impact on our aura. It is quite interesting findings. And we have also a collective chanting session on Friday with His Holiness Randy Ekarencio from Jakarta. So gratitude to all of you who came to the session tonight. I hope you learned something. But again, try to put things into practice, whether you want to clean your home, whether you want to look your home more nice, more less decorated, less items. But again, remember, chanting or overcoming the effect of opacity is the best tool to make our home positive. Namaskar and gratitude. Ah, j'ai pas vu le temps.